Indonesia's education is in trouble. You know it, I know it, my peers have talked about this endlessly in group chats and calls. And I feel like we're not talking about this enough. I feel like a lot of people older than me, and wiser too, more knowledgeable, have given their thoughts, their views, and their opinions about the situation. The people who go through this, the people who go through being lab rats of education with the changes of the curriculum and a random important test impending, all of this is experienced by us, the students. And I feel like we should voice our concern, tell people what we are going through so that we can be heard. I'm not here to be a spokesperson for my generation. I'm not here to be a spokesperson for anybody. I'm just here to tell you about my experience. And I hope if you're another student or another person who's going through all this, another 12th grader or maybe someone in college who's feeling something similar, please speak out. Raise your voice so that other people can hear this. And today, I would like to talk about the problems that I have with the system that we have now. But I will also give my solutions because I feel like rambling about the problems without giving actual feedback is somewhat like a random rant that goes nowhere. I'm not doing this because I hate my country. I'm not doing this because I hate the government. I love Indonesia. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. It has beautiful nature, kind people, and a huge potential. And I believe education can change the entire projection of our country. So we'll start off with the problems. TK is supposed to be the standardized exam for Indonesia. It's supposed to determine what university you're going through. Maybe not really, because according to our minister, this test is optional. It's not, if you're not ready, you shouldn't take it. That's what he said, by the way. I'm gonna put it on screen, what he actually said, and it's something along the lines of that. And the problem is, sure, it's optional, but it's your only way to go through one of the three routes in pursuing higher education, specifically PTN, which is the ones made by the country. These are usually the best colleges in Indonesia, and the first way is through your report card. The reason TKA exists is because a lot of schools wash their report card so that it's better. They will push a lot of students' grades up even though they don't do well. ITB, one of the top engineering schools in my country, has the first semester recalibrating all of these university students on their high school material. Indonesia is very unequal. If you look at other islands other than Java, a lot of the schools lack the facilities and lack teachers who are capable of teaching at a high level. This is not to criticize teachers, by the way, because I'm sure they're all working very hard, especially with the low amount of pay. But that's something to talk about later. Right now, that's the problem that the government is trying to solve. They decided to get rid of this by instilling a generalized exam. This is TKA, and it's filled with three main subjects that you have to do: Indonesia, English, and maths, and two extra subjects depending on what you want to major in. This seems good on paper, and a lot of these ideas are good on paper. But here's the big problem. If you look at how TK is executed, it's an incredible mess. I felt like the materials that we need to learn were only told to us a few months ago. And someone might say, oh, is that really a problem? Don't you just need to learn everything you learned in high school? You see, in the beginning of high school, at least among my peers, we changed our curriculum. Back then, it was more simpler. It was divided into two sections, one for the sciences and one for social studies. And this split allows students to pick what they want to focus in. If you want to be an engineer, you go into sciences. If you want to be a lawyer, you go into social studies. The curriculum decided to change that. We needed to learn all the social studies, all the sciences, and a lot more. All of these subjects may be totaling more than 11 or 12. If you look at the curriculum book for the 10th grade physics section, we only learn 3 materials in a whole semester. 3 materials. One of them was units. I think the other one was about momentum, and the last one was about global warming. Imagine 6 months of learning 3 material, and one of them is not even really physics. I know that global warming is important, but coming from a government that decided to destroy one of its most beautiful natural resources just for nickel, I mean, isn't that a bit hypocritical? Just saying. And in addition to that, that's not what we're supposed to learn in physics. If we look at other people's textbooks, people from outside this country in the 10th grade, they're all already moving on so quick, while we only got 3 materials in 6 months. That's what we were taught. A lot of the things that we should be learning aren't taught to us, and instead move to the 11th grade. This is why I think 11th grade was so confusing to me, because during then, that's when we were separated into our classes. In my school, there was the art division, business, biology, and engineering. I went into the engineering course, and I felt like there was a lot of physics material that I had to catch up on. A lot of the materials got mushed, and the teacher had a hard time teaching 2 years worth of material in one. And for that reason, I didn't learn a lot. There's a lot of stuff I miss. We only learned thermodynamics at the 12th grade, the final year. And that was when we were faced with TKA. I get that washing report cards is a big problem. I get that students need to be validated with their knowledge and intelligence. But if you're going to prep us with lacking material, how are you expecting these students to excel in a surprise exam that will determine their entire future? After I look at how colleges and universities are going to admit these students, we see that TKA, this generalized exam, is held with a higher degree of importance than their report cards. And I get that a lot of students watch their report cards, but a lot of students don't. And that's the biggest problem. The government gave us only a few months to prepare for one of the most important exams of our lifetimes. And simply put, they decided to throw away 2.5 years of report cards down the bin. Because honestly, I don't really blame the idea of having a generalized test. That makes sense. It is necessary to give exams sometimes to students to test their capabilities. But to do that while prepping them with so little, with a curriculum that was in shambles, by the way, it's just very wild to do. And there's been a lot of videos talking about the problems of this curriculum, this new curriculum that's been going on from 2023 and ended this year, I believe. Problems about students not being able to read well, students not being able to multiply 5 times 4. All of these problems for students in high school. I know a lot of this is because of students' mindset. A lot of students are very lazy, especially with AI these days, and they would like to use other methods in finishing assignments or homework, and I've been guilty of doing this myself. But we cannot leave out the fact that the curriculum itself, the system that the government has created, did not help in any case scenario. But leading on, there's an even bigger problem with AI. In the presidential election of Indonesia, Prabowo used an AI image of himself in his promotion material. And as a matter of fact, he also used AI videos in his campaign material. And if you haven't taken a look, you can just Google it up. Throughout the years, I've seen Indonesia being very inclined and very open with the use of AI. I've seen a lot of animated TV shows, even one that's recently made with artificial intelligence. And if you see the government, if you see the students, if you see everyone, they've been using AI all the time as an answer to making content, as an answer to do this, to do that, to solve your homework. It erodes your critical thinking. And furthermore, how can you expect students to not use artificial intelligence when the president himself uses it in his campaign? This is not an attack on anyone, but I'm just trying to clarify the point that if the highest most important person in the country uses AI, why can't the student? If you look at the exam, there are some fingerprints of AI. A lot of the questions aren't leaked, of course, even though some of them are. I saw some of the questions using AI images. And this got me thinking, how many of the questions within this exam uses ChatGPT, Gemini AI, or any artificial intelligence? So I took one question, a few questions honestly, from the mock exam on the official site and put it in some AI checker to see if it has AI content. And I didn't just use one, I used several AI detection devices because I know a lot of them give false positives. But if you see the screen right now and all of the results from these AI detection bots, a lot of them say yes. How can someone take a test seriously if it's made with artificial intelligence? I don't have solid proof that it actually is. I don't have proof that the actual questions are made by AI. But if the government actually gives us these questions, along with the AI pictures they use in some of the questions, I would love to check the entire exam page with an AI detection service that is reliable. Because honestly, if they are, what kind of exam is this? And to remind you again, this is one of the most important exams, if not the most important exams a student can take right now in Indonesia. The one that determines if you go into a top league university or not. And this brings me to another problem. Would you even want to go into a top league university?
Insya Allah akan terbuka 19 juta lapangan pekerjaan.
I know there's a lot of memes about this in my country, about the 19 million jobs promised to us by the vice president, who is also the son of the previous president, by the way. He promised us 19 million jobs. And as a lot of people have seen, we haven't really seen anything yet. And this begs the question, what's the point of learning anyway? I've seen a lot of students become more slothful and lazy because of this. But I don't think it's only because of their inherent procrastination. But I think it's also because of some sense of hopelessness. Because I have a friend whose cousin went to the best engineering school in this country, and even after a year, he can't get a job. I've seen a lot of stories about people who graduate from top universities not get a job in the future. That begs the question, what even is education for? Because the people who can get into Congress, the people who can become president even, they don't even need a bachelor's degree. All they need is a high school diploma. And I feel like Indonesia is headed to a place of anti-intellectualism and anti-knowledge. The use of generative AI for art, for example, the use of AI for everything in general, just shows me a lack of consideration for human effort. I'm scared that a lot of us are left stranded, or even worse, just used as some cheap labor to build their palaces and buildings. Because the problem we have with education right now is not only a problem with knowledge, but it's also a problem about the state of the country as well. Even before all of this happened, Indonesia has a very low literacy rate. A lot of us are not pushed to read or even be curious about the things happening around us. I feel like Indonesia's education teaches us not to be passionate about something. It doesn't teach us to do something unique, to do something that motivates us to wake up every day. It's a system that teaches us to not think. I feel like it's a system that pushes people to be lazy and conformative. And with that, a lot of us, a lot of my generation, I feel like, find hopelessness in this future of a country. Hopelessness in the sense that we can't get a job. We can't get a job that pays well. And for that reason, a lot of students decide to go abroad. A lot of you have seen the hashtag that just shows students riling up to be accepted by universities in Malaysia, Singapore, or China. And this feels like an increasing trend. A trend that I deeply understand because I myself am trying to find education outside. It's not because of the fact that I don't like this country. A lot of people say that it's something unpatriotic to do, but I feel like it's really a reaction to how disappointed a lot of students feel about the current state of education. Because after being lab rats with a curriculum that doesn't work and a test that's supposed to determine the rest of my life, it just feels worrisome to continue in a country that can't even guide itself. And if this continues on, Indonesia will be known as a country that sold its knowledge and brains for luxury, money, and power. And I don't think any of us wants this to happen. As harsh as I was, I do believe there's some hope. There is a solution to all this problem. But I think I need everyone's help to find out what the solution is. I'm only a 12th grader. I'm simply a 17, 18-year-old trying to give my opinion to the world. And I don't think I have enough experience to give the best answers to these problems. Love it if you give your opinions on how we can fix this, especially peers my age or even foreigners out there who has a thing or two about education. In my opinion, I feel like TK is already a good start. It is something that should be used, but I feel like the report card should be as important as well. I feel like this can be achieved if we give enough financing to the schools and districts that require it. A lot of the report card washing happens in schools that aren't as well developed as other schools. And because of this, they are able to just exchange the score. And because of a lack of money, these schools might be prone to a lack of bribery. That might be why. And furthermore, when it comes to paying all these people and giving them good wages, the salaries for teachers aren't enough. If you want to know, the wage for an average teacher in Indonesia is 1 to 5 million rupiah. I don't know what it is in USD, but I think I'll put it in the video later on. But it really isn't enough. But I do think it's not enough money, especially on the lower side of the end, to survive for a whole month. 1 million rupiah is really not enough, considering the fact that living costs is already so high right now. A lot of teachers also have trouble in getting these money, and a lot of them simply teach because they have a passion in it. And to all those teachers that work even though they don't get the salary they are owed, I really deeply respect you all because you are the very backbone of this country. And I hope your students will one day greatly appreciate the sacrifices you've made for them. The country should learn how to deal with this problem. I know Indonesia has a lot of corruption. We all know this. And I feel like this has to be investigated more so that teachers and facilities could get the money that they need. Or I think TKA should be a lot more clear with what their material is, and there should be a lot of routine checks. But I think that the curriculum surrounding this exam should help students to be prepared for it. That's why I would support it if TKA is for the 10th graders, the new high schoolers right now, because they can start off new with the materials that they need to do the exams well. And I would really love it if the government would allow these questions to be AI checked later on. I would also love to see Indonesia be more open to arts and music, because I feel like they've always been underappreciated, especially with AI art. For a country that has so much tradition and culture, we should appreciate the arts even more. We can do this by not cutting corners, for example, and also giving them a chance to explore creativity and create a beautiful Indonesia. I really do hope that everything will work out well. I really do hope that education for the future generations could be well equipped so that they are not only as smart as people in other countries, but they are as talented and motivated to create something new, Because what this country needs to go forward is some young, creative spirit, ambitious enough to lead the way for a beautiful and golden Indonesia. And by changing education, we can instill and sow the seeds that will bloom into a generation that will not only captivate the world, but move Indonesia to brighter and far better places. And if you're another student who's in the 12th grade, I hope you all don't give up. I hope you all can try and strive even with all of the problems that our current education has. And what's more important than grades on a report card or your basic knowledge is your determination and courage. Because every day you live is a day worth trying for. And I hope you all know this and are able to find your potential inside. Even in the worst scenarios, we all can thrive. We all can succeed. And if you have the courage in your heart to speak, I hope you'll be willing to speak about all of these problems too. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.